Today you will be reading the article, You Don't Know Me. I am afraid as I walk to school, every time I see a member of the secret sorority of pretty 14-year-old girls, I look the other way. I walk past Billy Breezer's house and see no sign of him. Besides his being suspended and grounded, it would not surprise me if Mr. and Mrs. Beezer have also chained him up in the basement. They have high hopes for their young Beezer. They believe that he will graduate first in his class from an anti-school, go to Harvard, become president, and also discover a cure for old age. They cannot have been too thrilled about his egg roll stealing caper. Please make sure you're following along with me as we read this article. I believe that the full wrath of the disappointment Beezer parents had descended on my friend, who is not a friend. I look for his face in the window, but the curtains have been pulled closed as if out of a deep sense of shame. I arrive at school 2 minutes early. My locker is on the 3rd floor in a fairly remote corner. I turn the dial on the combination lock, 3 to the left, 4 to the right, 5 to the left, and there are no helpful clicks, and the door remains sealed tight. This does not surprise me. My locker does not work the way other lockers do. It is not at all impressed by correct combinations. My locker is far tougher and meaner than that. I do not dial the combination again right away. Open up, I whisper. I am in no mood for this today. If you give me trouble, you will regret it. My locker does not respond because it has no mouth. But what it is thinking is, take your best shot, doofus. My grandfather was a volt at Fort Knox, and I don't open for the likes of you. I kick my locker so hard that I dent it. It is possible that I also fracture several of my toes. I begin to hop around in pain, and then I lower my injured foot, and the pain vanishes because I see Glory Hallelujah herself in all of her glory walking toward me, and she looks relatively happy, although she appears slightly baffled at something she has just seen. Are you okay? She asks. Oh, yeah, I say, suddenly dizzy as full force of her bright blue eyes is turned in my direction. Forgive me for being dramatic, but it is like standing on a high hill looking into a sunrise. Fine, I gasp, just fine. You kicked your locker. Just practicing a soccer move. I didn't know you played soccer, she says. I play all sports, I tell her. And then, because I have been rendered giddy by looking into the mountain sunrise of her blue eyes, I am able to blurt out, Why did you eat my note? She smiles. The lights of the universe blink on and off. Matter and antimatter nearly come together. She is smiling at me. At me. I was hungry, she says. So she is a goat. Well, no matter, goat or girl, she is still my beloved. Her secret is safe with me. I will bring her pieces of paper in tin cans. I will tie a bell around her neck and lead her to green and grassy pastures. That was a joke, silly, she says. What else was I going to do with your note? I mean, you passed it to me right at the end of class. Mrs. Gabriel was about to turn around and catch us. I couldn't risk having her find it. I am smiling back at her and nodding at her response, and I am thinking, of course, it makes perfect sense. Eat the evidence. If Billy Beezer has swallowed the egg roll, he could have denied everything. He would be a free man now. And I was a little bit surprised, she says. I didn't know you liked me. Well, I start to say and run out of words. I mean, I kind of thought so. But you've never said anything. But I try to point out and don't know how to finish the sentence. I thought maybe you might say something to me after math class yesterday, but every time I saw you after that, it seemed like you were embarrassed and hurried away. No, I tried to explain, but how can I begin to describe such a complex case of mutual misunderstanding? Glory Hallelujah is watching me. I guess you're a little shy, she says. Is that it? I nod. She is shy. Shy is good, she says. I have a horse, Luke. Well, actually, I just own half of Luke. Isn't that weird, to own just half of a horse? Anyway, Luke is real shy. If he doesn't know you, he won't take an apple from your hand, even if he's hungry. But once he gets to know you, He's the friendliest horse in the whole world. I am trying to follow all of this, but I am still a bit dizzy, and the words are flying thick and fast. I know that I am being compared to a half of a horse. Usually this would not be a good thing, but in this case it sounds just fine. I am quite willing to be either the front or the back of half of a horse if Glory Hallelujah thinks I am the friendliest horse in the world. I would eat an apple out of her hand. I would eat a pineapple from the crook of her elbow. If necessary, I believe I would be willing to eat Gava, skin and all, from between her feet. The bell rings. We have to be homeroom in 3 minutes. Oops, I better get my books, Glory Hallelujah says, and takes a step back. I am surprised to hear myself say, "Wait a minute, Gloria." She turns, waits. My heart is going kawong, kawong. Do you want to come to the game with me or not? Once again, I feel the intensity of her friendly smile. Not to be over poetic, but I believe it is akin to the shaft of heavenly light. The shivering polar explorer sees the cracks apart the treacherous ice floe and opens a safe route home. Of course I do. John, she says. It is the first time she has ever spoken my name. I did not know until this very instant that she even knew my name, but apparently she does, because her lips have just uttered it more musically than it has ever been spoken before. I love basketball, and I think we should get to know each other better. Do you mind picking me up at home? No, I say. Do you know where I live? Beechwood Lane, all the way down at the end. Sure, I say. I'm thinking, of course I know where you live. There is nothing about you I don't know, Glory Hallelujah. I know the different pairs of white and yellow and pink socks, and how they stretch up the delicate ankles, which are in the habit of crossing and uncrossing beneath your chair during anti-math class. I have counted the tiny blonde hairs on the side of your ear, and I also intimately familiar with the pattern of freckles on your left elbow. And do you think we should get something to eat after the game? Maybe at the Center Street Diner? Absolutely, I say, and hear myself babble. Dinner, diner, done. Great. See you in math class, she says. Bye, John. She walks away down the corridor. I turn to my locker, dial 3 to the left, 4 to the right, 5 to the left. The door swings open. All right, now that we have read the article, go ahead and take your copy of the questions. And we're starting with number 8. That's okay. Don't worry about, the order of the numbers. And I'm going to read the question, and you can pause the video, answer it, and then you can unpause, and we'll go to the next one. So basically, I'll just sort of do these questions with you. Number 8, Part A. How does John's tone change from the beginning of the excerpt to after his encounter with Glory Hallelujah? So does John in the beginning of the story sound silly and carefree to sarcastic and mean? Or did he first start off being cheerful and confident to lonely and frustrated? Or C, from lonely and frustrated to silly and excited? Or D, the last one, optimistic, in other words, he's positive and thoughtful, to dejected and embarrassed? All right, so circle the right answer for number 8. You can pause the video if you need some time to think about this. Number 9. Part B. Which detail from the text best supports why John's tone changed to the second set of the bold words in your answer from Part A? Okay, so which detail down here supports why his tone changed? Was it because Gloria made him laugh? Gloria agrees to go on the date with him? His locker finally opened without struggle? He didn't get caught in the egg roll caper with Billy Beezer. All right, so I'll give you a second, and you can go ahead and decide which answer you want and circle it on the paper. Pause the video if you need more time to think about it. Number 10. Which detail from the text best supports that John might be in love with Gloria, but she makes him nervous? Well, I start to say, and run out of words. B. Goat or girl, she is still my beloved. Her secret is safe with me. C. Oh yes, I say, suddenly dizzy, as a full force of her bright blue eyes is turned in my direction. Fine, I gasp, just fine. D. I know that I am being compared to a half-horse. Usually this would not be a good thing, but in this case it sounds just fine. So again, you're going to circle the answer down below. That is the best detail that would support that John might be in love with Gloria, but she makes him very nervous. Number 11. Why does John use the following metaphor to describe Gloria? So she is a goat. Well, no matter. Goat or girl, she is still my beloved. Her secret is safe with me. I will bring her pieces of paper and tin cans. I will tie a bell around her neck and lead her to green and grassy pastures. So why does John use this metaphor? A. Gloria has the most beautiful eyes he's ever seen. B. Gloria is the greatest basketball player at their school. C. Gloria has blonde hairs on the side of her ears that make her look like a goat. D. Gloria stated she ate the note he passed her in class because she was hungry. Alright, so go ahead and make your best decision for number 11. Pause the video if you need more time. Number 12. How did the author's diction, in other words, how did the author's word choice, the words that the author uses, in the following sentence contribute to the theme of the story? Not to be overly poetic, but I believe her smile is akin to the shaft of heavy light the shivering polar explorer sees that cracks apart the treacherous ice floe and opens a safe route home. It shows that John not only thinks Gloria is beautiful, but also athletic. B. It gives the reader insight into the mind of John, who is often lost in his imagination. C. It gives details about how even though John does not seem to like school, he has studied polar exploration. D. It demonstrates how John sees Gloria as being someone who is almost angelic and believes she can rescue him from the darkness in his life. So again, you're asking, how did the author's word choice in the following sentence contribute to the theme? So overall, all of these sweet words that John is whispering, his poem, how do these words contribute to the overall theme of this story, the main idea of this story? Alright, so go ahead and select your answer and go on to number 13 when you're ready. Number 13, which of the following quotes from the passage is an example of personification? My heart is going kawong, kawong. B. My locker is far tougher and meaner than that. C. I know that I am being compared to half of a horse. D. She is a goat. Well, no matter, goat or girl, she is still my beloved. Alright, go ahead and circle your answer for number 13. When you're ready, you can turn it to the back or the next page for number 14. 14, Part A. How does the voice of the narrator compare in the two passages? A. Stella speaks more childishly than John. A. Stella speaks more childishly than John. B. Stella speaks as though she has a southern accent, while John does not. C. Stella is realistic and straightforward, while John uses hyperbole and humor. D. John is realistic and straightforward, while Stella uses hyperbole and humor. Alright, so decide your answer for number 14. Now, since this is a part B, so it's going to go up here. Which two sentences best reveal John's voice as identified in part A? So depending on what answer you picked up here, you'll find the two sentences that best reveal it. A. I kick my locker so hard that I dent it. B. There is nothing about you I don't know. Glory, hallelujah. C. I turn to my locker, dial 3 to the left, 4 to the right, 5 to the left. The door swings open. D. I arrive at school 2 minutes early. My locker is on the third floor in a fairly remote corner. E. Because her lips have just uttered my name more musically than it has ever been spoken before. All right, so remember, you're picking two sentences that support your answer that you picked up here about how the narrator's voice is compared in the two passages. All right, 16, 17, and 18, the last few questions are going to compare the two different stories that you read. Number 16, the events in the excerpt are described in first person by the main character. Does that apply to the first story, the second story, or both of them? 17. The author uses dialogue to move along the plot. Does that happen in the first story, the second story, or both of them? Number 18. The main character could be described as confident and in control throughout the passage. So, do you feel that the main character is confident and controlled throughout the first story, the second story, or perhaps both of them? Okay? All right, so take a few minutes to make sure you're happy with those answers, and then you have completed the questions for this story. Good job. Please make sure that your name is on the top of your answer sheet. All right, it's very important that you have your first and last name because these are your answers that are going to eventually be for a grade.